All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston with me as always, my main man Lou. Lou, here we are, looking at the final week, recapping the final week of the 2021 NFL season, and we'll start to look forward here into Wildcard Weekend, which I'm pretty excited about for all the obvious reasons. Before we do that, I'd be remiss to say that it was a pretty wild weekend of football in our first ever in our lifetime, 18 weeks of NFL. And it kind of was everything that you thought it might be with all those divisional matchups to close out the week and everything you saw going on. There were multiple winning in scenarios for teams out there.
So I
We saw
didn't notice.
no, I'll give you your stage here and we'll talk about it. But yeah, why would you know anything about it? We saw the Colts lose to the Jaguars, shattering their playoff hopes. They were a winning in scenario. Heading into this weekend, I actually thought we were going to be witnessing Ben Roethlisberger's final game in the NFL, and yet here we are. They somehow, some way made it into the playoffs due to certain scenarios and how they unfolded. Both your Chargers and my 49ers had winning in games in front of them, although their scenarios were a little different. But still, they own their own destiny, right? Like if both those teams won, they're in the playoffs. But I digress. I think it's probably opportune time for us to dive right into it because we do have a lot to cover. Before we do that, anything you want to add to kick us off here?
Well, a couple of things. First and foremost, how it's karma that perhaps the two most exciting games this past weekend were both teams that we cover with our hometown takes. So I thought that was kismet, as I think some people would say. Secondly, from our last show, I told you what my New Year's resolution was going to be, and what is that, Weston? To be more zen, more calm. And boy, has this week really tested. I'm already off the bandwagon of. I already failed my New Year's resolution. The fact between basically I got the Chargers game and all that stuff. So
yeah, a lot of outside factors that are challenging our zen as well with what's going on in the world and being parents and having children at home. So I empathize. Obviously, both my wife and I were definitely thinking of you. We stayed up and watched that entire game. Didn't miss a beat. I agree with you. I think the teams that we cover definitely provided the most exciting football of the weekend. Maybe some fans of other teams might beg to differ, but
yeah, like the Giants might be like, no, our game was
like
that 39 quarterback rush was
unbelievable.
dramatic.
Yeah.
Did your wife ask you, like, why does this guy Lou like the Chargers? Why does he do this to himself? Why does he punish himself like this?
No, actually, really funny. Do you watch the show New Amsterdam?
No, I do not.
Okay, so
we already covered that you watch like CBS, like you're you're a boomer.
I'm a 75-year-old man who's retired. So my wife and I watched New Amsterdam, and actually on the episode last night there was a guy who had an ailing heart, and he had like a deep heart condition, but he was a diehard New York Knicks fan. So like to the point where he was delaying his surgery because the Knicks were playing that night, right? And he's like, no, I can't miss a game. I can't miss a game. And he's going into explaining all of these things. He made the surgeon wear his lucky Knicks jersey to perform the surgery on him. And when he woke up, the first thing that he asked about was, did the Knicks win the game? And the surgeon is just like, listen, the Knicks are going to kill you. Like they're literally going to kill you. And she's saying all this stuff and he's saying all this stuff. And my wife is just staring at me like, this looks really familiar because I deal with this throughout the NFL season with you and the 49ers. Because I do always say that they're going to shave at least 10 years off my life.
They're like cigarettes. Rooting for these teams are like cigarettes.
Dude, it's so bad. Like it is so bad. Like it dictates, like you're going through right now, dictates my entire week. How I treat people, how I treat my own family is based off the performance. I'm a much nicer person when it's not football season, right? I'm pretty even keeled during football season. I am a horrible individual to be around unless we win. Then I'm the most delightful individual. And this is why I tell you every game is a must-win game.
Let me tell you the nicest week of the football season that I am to everyone. It's bye week, knowing that
Yep.
knowing that there's no anxiety to watch the game
Yep.
or anything like that, and they're not going to lose.
But then yet
So,
we do fantasy football, and it's like there's enough stress there as well,
yeah.
right? Because your pride's on the line. So is what it is.
Now,
So
let's dive into it.
let's dive into it. So a little different rendition of our hometown takes here. Lou and I are going to interview one another based off of our team's games and what's upcoming or on the horizon for each team. So, Lou, I will begin. We will start with obviously that game we just identified, that Sunday night barn burner between the Chargers and the Raiders. So, the first question I have for you, sir, is last week in our pick'ems, you picked the Raiders to win this game. But to me, it felt like you were protecting your heart a little bit.
No, I was not.
So what did you really expect the outcome of this game to be before kickoff?
Listen. I expected the Raiders to beat the Chargers, and I told you why. I thought Gus Bradley, he didn't, would dial up something different. Even if you watch Good Morning Football, when Peter Schrager was covering some of the battles between the Chargers and the Raiders throughout history, it was like 5 games he went over how memorable they all have been. And guess what, Weston? Of those 5 games, the only time the Chargers ever got lucky and won those won one of those games was just one game. They were 1-4 in those matchups. The Holy Roller. There were so many different games that the Chargers always squander at the last second to the Big Brother Raiders. And I really thought the Chargers were going to charger. I just thought. I said earlier this year, what did I say? I've been pounding the table, Weston. I've been arguing with you. You made me believe. I'm still pissed off at you. It was a year too soon, and you get no, and you made me believe. And I really did think the Raiders were going to win.
If we don't have our belief, what do we have, right?
Our sanity.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, Jesus, you're not kidding. All right. So this is a little foreshadowing type of a question, and feel free to ad lib here. But as you were watching Storm Norton try to protect Herbert from Max Crosby, what were your real thoughts?
All right. So before I get into a question like this, I have to say, and I've seen this before, so I'm not going to take credit for something so smart. But I'm going to let you know that being a Chargers fan is like one of those choose your own adventure books. But no matter which adventure or scenario you select, you're going to die. So
just how do you want to die?
That's exactly what it is. So I have on my notes, like watching the game, there's a lot of things that people will probably throw words in my mouth, like, are you pissed about the 4th downs and stuff like that? But the notes I have right here is what I'm really pissed off at. And one of my bullet points is leaving Storm Norton one-on-one against Max Crosby. Way too many times. Way too many times. Crosby had a fantastic game. They had no answer for him. It just was disheartening. Frankly, I didn't think Storm Norton should have started this weekend. Here you are. He's just coming back off of COVID. The week before, Trey Pimpkins, we talked about him. He had a good game. I thought he should have been the starter at right tackle, and I thought he could have done a worse job than Storm Norton, a former XFL player. They're going to have to address that right side of that line because the left side's fantastic, but it was very frustrating. It's well known Max Crosby is one of the best at applying pressure. His sack numbers might not be up, but if you look at his pressure numbers, they're fantastic. So,
yeah,
I felt like Staley waited way too long to have Jared Cook, chip him from the slot. So I was pretty pissed off about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was trying to draw out of you, right? I wasn't trying to. The layup would have been to knock Storm Norton as a player, right? What I was more hoping for, and you answered this the way that I wanted you to, was more schematically. Like, what are we doing here schematically that we are not accounting for the weak side of our front against a high pressure player that is proven to be a disruptive player? Like, where are the chips? Where's holding the tight end in on a couple routes just to give that extra second? Just it wasn't there.
How much is like too much before you start like, oh, we need to provide this
Yeah.
guy some help? Like,
Yeah.
how much is gonna? What's the straw that breaks the camel's back? I didn't understand. I'm like, all right, this is quarter 3 now. Like, you might want to. They did not do it until that crazy fourth quarter. I felt like.
Yeah. And then look how the offense rolled, right? So let's leave it at
It just makes
that.
no sense. You don't need to help Slater.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Why not just have some help to the right side? It's like your left side is completely locked down for the most
Yeah.
part. But,
Yeah.
they're human, whatever. But I just was extremely frustrated. That was one of the things I was really pissed off about. I mean, I have a couple other things, but
Yep.
that's neither here or there.
So let's talk a little bit about the fourth quarter, right? So I don't know, 13 minutes or so left in the game. You're trailing 26-14, so it's a 2-possession game. Herbert throws a pick. At that point, did you think this game was over, dead to rights? What was going through your mind right then and there?
100%. I'm like, they're cooked. Even just looking at them for the first couple of quarters, I just felt like even when they scored their first 14 in the first half, they're off. Like, it was too much of a struggle just to get yards. I felt like, yeah, they were moving the ball and everything, but I just felt like the Raiders were right there defensively when it comes to passes and what have you. So that pick, I thought, all right, that's going to put me out of my misery. It's all right. I started thinking, hey, this was a good season. Here you are, you have a young quarterback, who played phenomenal. Like, I started to get into that, like, I want to be more Zen-like because of my New Year's resolution. The many stages of grief. I was at acceptance.
Okay.
Weston. I was at acceptance. So I'm like, you know what? They'll get better next year. Don't worry about it type stuff. So yeah, I thought the game was over 100%.
Yeah. All right. So to the point that you just made, right? Like, hey, okay, season's over, but we have some good pieces here. One of them was clearly the quarterback. A little fill in the blank for you. Justin Herbert is blank.
Justin Herbert is a top 3 quarterback.
There you go.
Top 3.
If you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it.
So of all the years we watch football, we see some crazy shit, Weston. Have you ever seen anything like that fourth quarter in Justin Herbert, the 4th downs?
Nope. So let's talk about it.
Have you ever seen someone with that much pressure on them look that nonchalant about it?
Bro, expression never changed in his face. Like, no panic, no. Here's one thing that I loved about him that was super telling to me. And I don't want to dive too far into this because this is part of my next question for you, where I'm gonna let you go and tell me what you saw in those final 2 possessions, if you will. But during those final 2 possessions, there was a missed opportunity to Austin Eckler, where it just looked like he lost the ball down the sideline. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh my god, it was like a little floater.
It was a lollipop up there. And
Eckler's head was turned inside and the pass was outside. Yeah.
Wrong. Right. Happens during a game. At no point did Herbert do the oh my gosh, or what the arms up, nothing. It was back in the huddle, next play, right? Yeah. Like, that to me is a characteristic that you can't coach. You probably can't teach it. You either have that gene or you don't. And to have that to coincide with the talents that he has, bro.
All right, so
he is what I've been telling you that he is.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say even something more. Even the greats would be frustrated at that play. You're Brady.
Yeah. Brady would ream you out on the sideline because he expects more.
Rodgers would be, would have like that, that look on him and what have you. But Herbert, when that happened, his head was already to the next play. Like, his mind was already, calculating the next play. And that's kind of crazy. You always hear the adage, you have to forget the last play. Always forget the last play. And that's a cliche that coaches tell their players to have amnesia so they don't get so hung up on if a bad play, they don't want to affect the next play. He actually does that. Seldom do I feel like I see anyone in the NFL do something like that.
He flushes it, man. And sometimes that leads to like bad games, right? Because it's short-term memory, you flush it and you go out there and you just stick to what you're doing. You don't turn into a game manager. And, even the greats are going to put up a dud. I'm not saying Herbert put up a dud in this, right? But I'm saying that mentality is what leads to those things every once in a while. You flush it, you're on to the next. All right, so here's your opportunity. I asked the previous question about Herbert about like what he is to you, and fill in the blank, because I do want to talk about more about those final 2 drives, trailing 15 points, 8 minutes left in the game. As a fanatic that you are, take me through what you saw in those final 2 possessions.
It's kind of hard because here you are, like, especially the first possession, because I'm thinking this is just garbage time, right? Straight up garbage time. But what I saw was just a guy that was not going to quit, and it's crazy because his arm can do. Not only is he smart, but like if he can't diagnose a play, he'll make up for it with his big arm. So I I just thought it was insane that he spread the ball around. He did a fantastic job. Some of the fourth down. What people really need to do is not just watch the game. You got to try to watch like different angles of of some of these throws and when he throws the ball and where he places it. For example, that game tying touchdown to Mike Williams, when he releases the ball, Mike Williams was double. They had him bracketed inside and outside, and Mike Williams looked wide open. He got the ball so quick to Mike Williams because of that. It was like It was like on the 12-yard line with like 4 seconds left. It just was insane how quick the ball gets there. And not only does it get there on a rope.
Yep.
So even the touchdown was a fourth and 23?
4th and 21, and they got 23 yards.
That 23 yard, that throw.
That
throw, it never, as soon as it left his hand, it stayed straight.
Stayed the same height. Yep.
Is that insane? And you have a cover 3 defense with the Raiders. Cover 3, basically, you prevent big plays.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. You prevent the big plays. You try to force them to go underneath, knowing that they have to score a touchdown. And they still weren't able. Defenses are having trouble reacting to his arm strength. The ball's getting to the receivers way before they can even react. And I just saw perhaps him and, like, we're going to talk about Burrow too, but the next coming of the greats. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're starting to get on their horses, and riding the sunset. I feel like him, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, like these are your upcoming greats, and I really feel like that, like he could be Peyton Manning-esque.
Dude, he's going to be a great player in this league. I've said this since day one. I will never back off this until he's like not in the league because he's capable of doing all of it. And I agree with what you're saying. And what exemplifies the greatness to me is you used the term garbage time, right? Cover 3, where, all right, maybe the first drive where they go down, the one that resulted in the Palmer touchdown on that 4th and 21.
Garbage time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Garbage time. Like, okay, you chalk that up. But then to come back and do it again in the same fashion. I mean, dude, you're talking about across, and keep me honest here, I might be off by 1 or 2, but across those 2 drives, they faced 5 fourth down scenarios in those 6
fourth down.
And if you couple that,
they weren't 4th and 1.
No, yes, these were 4th and long. Yes,
4th and 21. Yeah.
If you couple that with 3rd and long scenarios that they cover with, you're talking about 10 different scenarios across those 2 drives were big plays. And I know one of the 4th downs, they picked up like the defensive holding call, but that wasn't a ticky-tack foul. That was defensive holding, like
right in front of the ref.
Yeah, like that has to be called, right? Or otherwise people are losing their freaking mind. But I saw what you saw. I saw greatness like unfolding right in front of me. I saw, I hate to ice in the veins. I hate that term. But like ice in the veins from somebody who's just relentless and knows what it takes to win. Like, it's just a winner. He's just a winner. I know they didn't win the game, but there was no quitting that man. He could have easily, and he didn't allow his team around it. And dude, those wide receivers were exhausted, bro.
Yeah.
Exhausted. Because you mentioned 3rd and longs, 4th and longs. They're running deep patterns. Got to get back. No time on the clock. Like, they were exhausted, but I almost felt like they were like, yo, if this guy can do it, we can do it. Like, we just got to get it together. The only thing that for me is I didn't see enough Keenan Allen on those final 2 drives, right? And I know that's not his, like, listen, I'm as big a Keenan fan as anybody, but I know that's not necessarily like his strong suit, right? Like it felt more like explosive, big play, like Palmer type, Mike Williams type, like scenarios. But on like those fourth and sixes, those like 3rd and 8s that they saw, like that should be Keenan Allen prime territory.
I agree. So we talked about his arm strength. We talked about how cool and collective he was under pressure. And I want to talk real quick about his intelligence when they went for the 2-point conversion after that, the first drive and that touchdown.
Yep, to Eckler, they got it. Yep,
he went through 5 progressions.
Oh yeah,
Eckler was the 5th read, getting pressured by Crosby. Rolling to his left, he went through all 5 progressions. Eckler was the last one and ripped it right into the corner of the end zone for a 2-point conversion.
Where only Eckler could catch it too, by the way.
Yeah. So like, this guy's he's a golden god.
Yep.
Justin Herbert. I'm going to change my answer. Justin Herbert is a golden god.
Okay. No dispute here, man. At least everything that I've seen over the last 2 years, like somebody try to refute me that this guy is at a bare minimum not a top 5 quarterback. Like,
Yep.
I will invite you on the show. We can have that argument all day. I'm not even a Chargers fan, and I will still try to refute that. You just can't. Like, there's just if you our eyes are open and understand the game of football, you understand what this man brings to the table, and that the Chargers are going to be a real problem, and it's not going to really depend. Like, it's going to be more about him than who you surround him with. Protect him, keep him upright, and he's going to raise the level of everybody else's game around him. He's that guy, right? Like, if I was to say Justin Herbert is an elevator of talent, like he will make everybody around him better.
LA has 2 more years to take advantage of.
Yeah, you got to go get it now while he's on that rookie contract, because boy, you're gonna have to pay that man some money that we haven't even seen yet. All right, 2 to 3 more questions here. So I saved this one. I wanted this one to be for last, but really my last ones are more about like forward thinking. Do you think Brandon Staley cost his team a trip to the playoffs this year?
Ooh.
In this game, in that scenario, that I'll paint the scenario, calling that timeout in overtime.
No. Okay.
Oh, he 100% did.
Oh, you're 100% wrong. Okay.
100% did.
All right, let me tell you why. I had
100% cost you the playoffs, dude.
All right. Well, not because of that timeout.
Yes, because of that timeout.
Oh, you are all right.
Pasaccio was running that ball, bro. Like, and they let him go for a big run. But dude, they called the timeout and almost forced them to take the other play. Like, dude, Pasaccio, after the interview, you see him, he's like, I guess we'll never know. Like, dude, at that point, these guys were exhausted. You're in overtime. Both of you can go to the playoffs. Bro, I'm telling you, they weren't even going to make a push to go to.
Okay, so let's tell our listeners, I did not know any of the questions you're going to ask me.
No, you did not.
But I prepared for this timeout question. I have 6 bullet points to disprove why you're wrong. The scenario: 3rd and 4 at the Chargers' 39-yard line. Staley calls a timeout with the play clock was near 0 and there's 36 seconds left. Am I wrong so far?
No.
Correct me when I'm wrong. All right. So if the Chargers stop
take a knee, game's over. There's not another play. 40-second play clock. Like,
okay.
they were.
Let me keep on going. All right. They're going to take a knee. Then how come when they call it was 3rd and 4, then they called the timeout, the Chargers?
Yep.
The Raiders were in shotgun formation, 11 personnel. Why they take? That's not looking like they're taking a knee there.
No. I'm telling you, the scenario and the thought process changed when Staley took the timeout. Then they're saying,
no, you're
fuck them. Now we're going to play to win this game. All I need is 4 or 5 more yards. Bro, I'm telling you, he cost you this playoffs.
Hold on. So before the timeout, pre-timeout,
yep,
the Raiders were in shotgun formation, 11 personnel. They were going to run the ball no matter what. It was 3rd down. They weren't going to take a knee. They were going to see what they can get. And let me tell you why. Because if the Chargers stopped them for no gain, right? That's a 57-yard field goal. All right, maybe they would have then pretty much ran the clock out then, right? Yep. But the timeout did not cost them to lose the game. You know what cost them to lose the game?
giving up like 10 yards on that run.
8 yards on the
Yeah.
yes, that's what caused them to lose the game. They were going to run. They were going to run no matter what. They were going to run the ball no matter what.
Because they were going to let the clock run out.
Yeah, but they weren't going to take it. No, they weren't going to take a knee. Bisaccia literally said that they were going to run another play after this. Even before the timeout, they're going to run another. It was going to be a run. It just happens that the fact, Staley knew that. Staley's like, we have to try to stop them for a minimal gain. Call the timeout. Try to get your best defenders in there to stop the run, which means absolutely nothing when you're talking about the Chargers' rush defense, right?
Yep.
And if he stopped the run, that's it. The game would have been over. They wouldn't have gone for a 57-yard field goal.
No, they just would have let the clock run. If it was a 1 or 2 yard game, they would have let the clock run.
So I don't understand what you're talking about, like the timeout costing them the game. I don't understand why people keep on saying that. I just don't get it.
I just feel like it changed the play call.
Change
the play call.
It was going to be a run no matter what.
Yeah, but dude, there's a big difference between outside the tackle, between the guard and the tackle versus like, just make this just a dive up the middle, right into the heart of their defense. I'm telling you, it upset Bisaccia that he called that timeout. It upset him, and it changed the complexion of that game.
Let me tell. All right, so if we're going through feelings and stuff like that, guess what? Bisaccia is interim head coach trying to get his team to the playoffs.
He was in.
Yeah.
He punched the ballot.
He's an interim head coach. He was going to get his team to the playoffs, but he wanted to do it to kind of leave a mark to show that, hey, I could coach this team against a rival in your own division. I think Bisaccia was going to run the ball no matter what. They were not taking a knee. They were going to at least run it on third down, see where he got them, and then go from there.
Okay. All right. Good. Listen, I'm loving this. So, all right, real quick. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I have obviously followed the Chargers pretty intently this year due to our show. I am actually disappointed that they didn't make the playoffs because I just think they're as equally as talented as any of the teams from the AFC that are in the playoff race. I think you already alluded to this earlier when we were talking about like just letting Max Crosby run free for the game. Outside of that, was there anything you think that was missing from this game that contributed to the Chargers losing it?
Let me go to what I'm really pissed off about list right here.
One thing.
Oh, no. I can't. Okay. Can't just do one thing. You gotta give me my time to shine. Missed tackles. Not sure why they were playing Kenneth Murray so much. I hate to say it, but Kenneth Murray is a bust. The middle linebacker for the Chargers. He had many costly penalties. He's very slow to react. He kind of reminds me of Jalen Smith from the Cowboys. Chris Harris, straight up liability this season. The guy can't cover anything. He was awful. Like we already talked about Storm Norton, the drop passes. And last but not least, when I saw that 3rd and 23-yard run by Jalen Richard, I had nightmares of Ray Rice. I'm not sure if you even realize it.
I remember that run. Yep.
That had like post-traumatic stress disorder just watching that. I'm like, wow, that's Ray Rice is on the Raiders now. Holy shit! But what I really think, when I'm really pissed off when it all comes said and done, it's not this game, Weston. What I'm really pissed off about and why they're not in the playoffs is that Houston game.
Yeah,
I had that in the back of my mind. This game is absolutely nothing, meaningless, garbage, shit.
If they win that Houston,
if they win against a 3-win team,
yep,
that has nothing to play for. No talent. Brandon Cooks was out on COVID. They had 26 players out on COVID, and they couldn't stop them.
Yeah,
that is what I'm pissed about. Is that Houston game?
Makes sense, right? Hindsight's 20/20, man. Why do you think I tell you every week's a must win? Because you never know when you actually need that win, right? Like, and at the time you could be like, all right, on to the next. But in reality, that's the difference between being in the playoffs and not.
That's it.
All right.
2020, right?
Well, 2021's in the rearview mirror. I have 2 questions for you forward thinking.
Okay.
2022 offseason plans, I'm going to call this. What does this team do with Mike Williams?
What do they do, or what I do?
What would you do with Mike Williams?
Yeah. Bye-bye. Too
much money. Not
too
enough
much money. he disappears too much.
Yep.
And I like Mike Williams. I would resign him, but the problem is he's going to want something around like $18 million. That's going to be like almost like up. That's close to 20% of the cap space. I really don't think you can do that for that type of player. So what I would basically do is slide Palmer out to his position and try to draft a receiver, or even sign a receiver, a more of a run after catch receiver, a quicker receiver, faster,
Yep.
quick twitch receiver. They need something to guess what? If they're going to throw the ball underneath, this receiver can take that 7-yard slant or 7-yard pass or whatever, for 20, 30 yards. They need some type of diversification from the skill position at the wide receiver.
Yeah. Because I've always said Keenan's that true like possession wide receiver,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like
need
he's
Keenan.
not often getting further than the reception where the reception took place.
Yeah.
And the league's gone that way. I mean, shit, we'll talk about it here in a minute, I'm sure, about my team, right? But these receivers have made a living off of catching a 7-yard slant and going 30, 40, 50 to the house,
That's hard. They're hard to find, man.
They are hard to find, but they do exist.
They do.
We got 2 of them, so I know they exist. Last one. You can only one answer for this. What should be the priority focus in free agency, position-wise?
Position-wise? Okay. It's going to be defense, and what I would say, trenches in the defense, defensive line / edge.
Okay.
Like, they just need to they need to be more of a bully.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was saying like D tackle, right? Like, because that's what I think of when I think of bullies, right? Like stuff to run. Like
they run a 3-4, so yeah,
that's true too.
So they're going to need
so the nose,
the nose tackle, three technique, defensive end. So that's when I said D line. It's like they need it. Yeah. What they did with the offensive line this past year, had they revamped it, have 4 new starters. They need to do the same thing on the defensive line this year, and they had a cap to do it. They have $72 million. That's not including cutting Brian Bulaga, which they will. But I can say anything up to like 12 to 15.
Yeah, I mean they have a sizable cap number on paper, right? Like, they're forced with signing, potentially signing, or the prospects of signing a lot of their own people that will quickly eat that up.
You're right.
But they on paper they have essentially what it takes to do. All right. So I guess ready? It's my turn now.
You ready to go on? Well, I was on the hot seat. You're all relaxed and shit.
Dude, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Let's see if you're cool next week.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, let's go. Are you ready for some questions?
I think so.
Going into this game against the Los Angeles Rams, did you support Kyle Shannon for starting an injured Jimmy Garoppolo over Trey Lance?
Yes. I have been one of the bigger advocates of saying, weeks ago, maybe it was time to move on. I think I was a little blinded after what I saw in the Houston game and Trey's performance to say that, like, if we started Trey in this must-win game, that if he lost, I could walk away feeling a little bit better. Like, hey, we're starting a rookie in his like 3rd ever career start, right? Like, it was almost like protecting my heart. The reality is if Jimmy was 85% healthy, he just knows it gives Kyle all the playbook. And I think what Jimmy does well plays to what the Rams defense doesn't do well, and it's get the ball out really fast. Trey holds the ball, man. Like, he's looking downfield. That's what allows for down the field type throws. Like, Jimmy gets it out quick. The whole playbook's there. And for those reasons, when Jimmy was announced the starter, I knew it was the right move, but part of me was also like, damn, if you lose this game because you started a dude with a bad thumb and it gets off the rails fast, then it really looks like a poor decision. But if you feel like Jimmy can survive and make it through the game and he can throw the rock, then he's got to at least start, right? Because I think the most important aspect of that is Jimmy's knowledge of the offense allows Kyle to be in his bag. And when you're trying to beat a team for the 6th consecutive time, like, you need to be in your bag.
I'm actually going to disagree with you. I thought they should have started Trey Lance. This is what I thought the game plan should have been for me if I was a fan. Started Trey Lance for a couple of reasons. First of all, Rams not familiar with him. They don't know really what the offense is going to look. Maybe a second week being a starter, Trey Lance would have been more comfortable because he did get better towards that second half.
Sure did.
In the Texas game. So I would have started Trey Lance in the first half. If he faltered, I would have see if Jimmy G could play hero ball, come out second half, and lead the team to a victory. Could be a little foolish of me, but here you're also doing two things. You're having the Rams prepare for Trey Lance and for the game, who has a completely different skill set than Jimmy Garoppolo. So if Jimmy Garoppolo comes back out in the second half, they're going to have to readjust in their game plan almost on the fly. I know they play him twice a year, for the last 4 years and what have you. But if you're changing your game plan, your philosophy mid-game, that can't be easy. No. So that's what I would have personally wanted if I was a fan. And listen, would I have been so wrong, though? Jimmy was awful. You could have started Trey Lance in that first half.
Well, we didn't start a quarterback in the first half is the way that I look at it.
So I don't really think my idea is so far-fetched or was so far-fetched when
I just think when you think of the Rams front seven, what do you think is the strength? And I think pass rush, Von Miller, Aaron Donald. Again, Trey, his style of play, especially now with a limited playbook and limited knowledge, holds on to the ball. It's tough to elude those guys. Like, dude, it's no accident that every time the 49ers, at least the last 6 times that the 49ers have played the Rams, Aaron Donald is an afterthought in that game. Like, he's not even discussed. Like, when he is discussed, it's Daniel Brunskill owned him, or Deebo Samuel is Aaron Donald's daddy. Like, it's in a very negative light. And it's because when you're playing to Jimmy's strength, dude, it's hard to argue. There are very few people that get rid of the ball faster than he does when he's actually releasing it. His release is money in terms of how quickly it gets out. And it just nullifies the pass rush. It does. Like, you have someone like Trey in there, big pressure game, big pressure situation. Like, that plays into Donald's strength. That plays into what Von Miller is going to give you. And I think, as a defense, I'm just sending pressure at him all day long because he hasn't seen that yet. Now, again, I'm going back to your original question. I was blinded in the beginning by my heart because my heart would have protected me had we lost this game, regardless of the score. But it was Trey Lance's third start. I would have chalked up to very valuable experience for him, very valiant effort by the team after the way we started the year. Let's start looking at 2022 and would have felt a little bit better about that. Had they lost because of Jimmy's poor performance and the thumb was clearly an issue and didn't make an adjustments, that's a much different pill to swallow. Thankfully, we're not having that conversation.
Well, sometimes you got to be like Roxette and listen to your heart. All right. So we alluded to before how the Niners actually only ran 10 guys out on the offensive side of the field. In the first half, they did not have a quarterback. Being facetious, obviously, right now. But what do you think was the biggest difference between the first half Niners and the second half Niners? How does a team like that completely turn it around within a half?
2 things. Adjustments on both sides of the football, right? And nothing to lose sometimes, right? Like, leave it all on the field, nothing to lose, and momentum is a really funny thing in football. The biggest play of that game was sacking Stafford on that third down in the first half that gave us the ball back to at least go down and kick the field goal to stop the bleeding. Yep. This is exactly what happened when the last time, or prior to 2019, but in the 2012-2013 season, when we beat the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship in Atlanta. They went up on us quick, 17-0. Came down, kicked the field goal, stopped the bleeding. The entire complexion of the game changed. You win that game, you go to the Super Bowl. So, adjustments. I think Stafford was hot early, and the specifically Cup getting open, Higbee open. They had no running game all game, right? Like, we shut down the run, but we weren't stopping the pass. D'Amico Ryan.
Side note, how good is Cup? He's such a
he's so good. He
is such a cerebral wide receiver. Like, he's ridiculously smart.
Yeah, he's not. Listen, he's obviously athletic to be in the NFL, right? But like, there's probably 30 wide receivers in the NFL that are more athletic than he is. But when you are that smart, and work that hard, like good things are gonna happen to you. Good.
Yeah.
Like, do I think he does this exact same production next year? No, this is a once in a lifetime year, right? Like, but like he's not gonna fall off a cliff next
Yeah.
season. I think
Mhm.
the same thing about Debo Samuel's season, right? Like, is he gonna do it again next year? No, he's gonna get paid. Nobody does it again once they get paid. You know what I mean? Like, it's a like enjoy it while you're watching it because it's going to be a while before that happens again. And
Mhm.
when something like that happens again, it's going to be a totally different player. But back to your, I think D'Amico made the adjustments on defense to get back to more of what we were playing against a high passing offense like the Cincinnati Bengals, and how you were able to take that away. More stunts up front. Eric Armstead getting off the edge, getting inside, right? Lining Bosa up inside, getting triple covered and triple teamed and freeing up lanes for Arden Key and Samson Ibukam and Armstead. Like those guys all balled out, and that all started in the second half. But what did I tell you? If it wasn't last week, it was the week before. I think it was last week. What Chris Sims kind of alluded to with Kyle Shanahan's play calling style.
Yes, he basically tests the waters.
And that's what he did, man. Like Jimmy, listen, we weren't down 17-0 because of Jimmy. Like
you see that one interception he threw in the first half?
All right, in his face, but we're already down. We were already down 17. They didn't score off of that interception. So we were already down 17-0. He just, okay, I'm setting you up. I'm planting seeds. I'm doing all that. Look what they did on the drive where Debo threw the passing touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They ran the ball every single play. The only pass they threw on that drive was Debo's pass. Just planted the seed. And the reason why that field goal was so important is because now it's a 2-possession game, and it lets you come out in the second half and get back to what you do well. And that's run the football. If it's a 3-possession game, maybe you're coming out slinging it. It's a little bit more urgency. So to me, it was Kyle being true to what he is and like just reading what they're doing, putting little teasers out here to see how they react. And then he got into his bag. And the biggest thing was the D'Amico Ryan's adjustment in the second half, moving around that defensive line and getting way, dude. I mean, we were all over Stafford's ass in that second half, dude.
You certainly were. All right, last question about the Rams, and then I want to get into real quick with the Cowboys. Sean McVay has never defeated Kyle Shanahan. Why?
I don't subscribe to Big Brother, right?
Really? Because you call the Seahawks the Niners.
They are, you know what I mean? But like, I don't subscribe to it, but it is a real thing, right? Like, and but I also think like Kyle is Sean McVay's mentor. Like they did this together. I think one of the things about Kyle is he is very, very cerebral and very, very analytical and in tune. And I just think he has this edge. I honestly, it's really hard to answer that question because like this should have been the game, dude. I mean, even last year, I think one of the games we won was like with like I think Mullins was the quarterback.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it really just doesn't seem to matter who you're trotting out there. When we were like irrelevant last year with how many people we had out injured during the year, and still kind of like smacked them around. I don't know. I think Kyle knows enough about Sean to help coach up his defensive guys that like this is what he wants to do. So try to take that away from him. And I think the Rams are so offensive minded at times that I think Kyle's just like, I know how to play against them. I just think our teams, like we just match up well against them. And it's less about Kyle and Sean and more about the players that are on the field. Like styles make fights, like we've all talked about Aaron Donald's the best pass rusher in the NFL. We don't often talk to him about it like he's the best run stopper in the NFL. Like, what have I said has always been the weakness of the Rams? Run it between the fucking tackles. You'll do just fine. Every team that's beat them, if you run it between the tackles and you can control the clock, like they're soft up there. You call them a Twinkie. Like it's what they are. And I think our team, their finesse, we're built to bully in the trenches. I think that's the biggest difference.
Okay. So 2 questions with the Cowboys. game coming up this weekend. Don't want to go too much into detail because we're going to talk about our pick'ems in a little bit. But first and foremost, what scares you the most about this Dallas squad?
Oh, I think
They're kind of complete. Like
they
their
are.
offense is good. They're top I
They
think
are.
6 or 7 scoring offense, and their defense has drastically improved.
So I think what scares me the most is they're a very opportunistic defense. They're very good at creating turnovers, and our team is not. And I think they can create turnovers. They can create short fields. They have the offense to take advantage of that. This is not a team that you want to play behind to catch up, right?
They can
Like
still keep on going.
they'll put the foot on the throat, and I think that's what scares me the most. Believe it or not, like I'm not terribly intimidated by the wide receivers. I know they got good ones. I'm not terribly intimidated by the quarterback. He's a good one, and his style does kind of give us fits like mobile guys. But like I've seen D'Amico scheme this up against other top flight offenses, right? Where they've slowed them down, and like you don't have to slow them down for all 4 quarters. Sometimes you can just slow them down for 3 quarters and you get enough out ahead, or right, like you take advantage of the clock. I mean, dude, let's not forget that the 49ers finished as a top 3 defense in the NFL with outside of being a fan. Like, can you even name their cornerbacks? You know what I mean? Like, and dude, we were better statistically against the pass than they were against the run. And I would argue that we shut down other teams' running games. So the offense doesn't scare me as much as their opportunistic defense. But for as opportunistic as their defense is, they're just as susceptible to big plays that we have to take advantage of. But the defense scares me the most.
For me, what I would say about the Dallas Cowboys is this. It's going to be weird to say this. They're a well-coached team. And what I mean by that, I don't mean McCarthy.
At the coordinator level.
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Somehow, I think the best thing
Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn.
Yeah, if somehow McCarthy can get COVID and let just those two run the team, I think they're extremely well coached from a coordinator level.
I mean, no accident these guys are getting interview requests, right? Like no accident. They are well coached, but I would say that we are too. You know, our coordinators are getting lauded for opportunities. I think this is a good game. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a close game. And of all the teams we could have played in the first round, I do feel like we match up well against this team. Is my honest opinion.
Last question, and then we'll move on to our next segment.
Yep.
What do you feel like the 49ers need to absolutely do to avoid against these Dallas Cowboys?
What do they have to avoid?
Yeah.
Turning the ball over. Turning the ball over. If we're not turning the ball over, like this is just like pure statistics, right? There's 2 things. To avoid, and this is like the most obvious football statement, but they have to avoid turning the ball over. Specifically if it's Jimmy influenced turnovers, right? Like because if you go back and look, anytime that he's turned the ball over twice in a game, we don't win football games.
I think it's like 2 and 6. 2 and 6.
Yeah, like we don't win football games. I just told you we're not built behind. The other thing that we need to avoid is to not sleep on how important it is to get Deebo Samuel heavily involved in this game. Dude, there's a statistic out there. When he runs the ball more than 5 times in a game, this team is undefeated. So he needs to carry the ball 5 to 10 times.
I do that on the first. Do it on the first drive.
I do it literally on the first 2 possessions. Like he'll have those counts, right? But that's what it is. Avoid turnovers. All right. So we'll talk more about it in a little bit too, I'm sure. So let's just real quickly, because I'm looking at how much time we've already had.
We kind of
offensive, defensive players of the week, like we always do. Lou, give me an offensive guy.
I'm sorry. I'm going. This is probably the last time I'm going to be talking about the Chargers until the end of the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, 34 for 64, 383 yards, 11.3 average, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But what really stood apart for me was that 6 fourth down conversions. I've never seen anything like this from a quarterback ever.
Yeah, I have him on my list. I didn't have him right up there. Like the 64 attempts, I know that's what the game flow dictated, but that's really never a winning philosophy to have your quarterback throw the ball 64 times. But I know
I was more enamored was the 4th down.
Conversions. Hard to ignore what he did on those final 2 drives. I'm going to have a homer take here as well. I'm going to throw Debo up here as an offensive player of the week. He had 4 catches for 95 yards. He had 8 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. And this man threw a touchdown as well. Again, I hate to be redundant, but the year that he's having, it is. Listen, I'm not going to go as far as to say he deserves to be offensive player of the year, but I think he could be considered for it. You know what I mean? Like
probably 3.
Like what he's doing right now, like he's shattering records, right? Like no wide receivers ever rushed for as many yards as he has, as many touchdowns as he has. Like he's like creating this niche of like, Debo.
Yeah.
I know you want to use me as a running back, but you're gonna pay me like you pay a wide receiver because you could still put me out there. And you talked about the kind of guy that you want on your offense. This is that kind of guy, right?
Yeah,
like
he now
when the ball is in his hands.
There's now a comp, like
Yeah.
Randy Moss type of receiver, or or a big physical receiver. There is a comparison. We want a Debo type receiver. Yep.
And it's hard not to root for this guy. I mean, first of all, his name's Debo. We grew up on the movie Friday, right? So there's so many memes and so many things that you can do to like. They actually joke. Kyle Shanahan joked because Debo just had his first kid, and they're like, "This kid's going to be a first-round draft pick because he's apparently like 3 weeks old and is already holding his own bottle by himself." So they're like, "He's going to be in the NFL before you know it."
That's funny.
So just gonna have to call him DJ Debo Jr. All right, I have a
let me get one more. Let me get
one more.
Dak Prescott, 21 for 27, 295 yards, 14-yard average, and 5 touchdowns. You're throwing 5 touchdowns, you're getting on my list.
Well, that's the only reason why I have him up there, right? It's hard to ignore 5 TDs. You hear me?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the reason why that's the reason why I have him up there is because of the 5 TDs. I also wanted to keep in mind, like, they basically played against a JV Eagle squad who like decided to sit the majority of their starters and whatnot. But listen, you get 5 touchdowns in a game. I don't care what it is. Like, you get on the list. So I had him. I throw Rashad Penny up there one more time. 23 for 190 and a touchdown. Boy, he's finishing this season like Jonathan Taylor finished last season.
You're right.
Like he's just coming on.
About time the first one it's starting to show up.
He's going to get himself paid this offseason. All right, let's get on the defense side of the ball. Who's your number 1 on defense?
Linebacker from the Seattle Seahawks, Jordan Brooks, 20 tackles. 20.
Yeah, that was wild.
2 tackles for a loss too. So it's just the fact that it's just a volume there for me. When you have a 2-0 in the front of the tackles, you're going to be on my list.
Yeah, that's unique territory. Just so we're clear, I looked up our boy Olukon from Atlanta.
Yeah, 13, right?
Yeah, bro. This man, I'm telling you, like, wow.
All right, I'm gonna find Olukon and I'm gonna tag him. All right,
you have to, dude. I actually looked for him. There's a fan page of him that has like 7 followers,
he doesn't have
but I don't think
media?
he's on social media. Yeah. I have Max Crosby. He was literally in every statistical category that a defensive end can be. 7 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 passes defensed, 4 QB hits. I mean, he was everywhere. He wreaked havoc.
Yeah.
I mean, I could argue that he single-handedly is the reason why. Like, if you go back and look at the stat line of Las Vegas's offense, like, I don't even know. I don't think Carr even broke 200 yards.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have 108 yards in penalties.
That's also true too, right? Like, that was a big thing in the game. Do you got another one on defense that you throw up, or is that your only?
I mean, I can. I think the linebacker from Jacksonville, Damian Wilson, had 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. I just like that he covered everything in that stat sheet there.
Yep. I had Eric Armstead.
7 tackles, he was up there for me too.
2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 3 QB hits. Again, he seemed to be everywhere. All right.
Yeah, but he didn't have that magic 3 for sacks.
No, he did not. But he had the 2.5.
He was close.
He was close. All right. So real quick, because we're going to be talking about winners and losers here in just a second, but our little sprint through the schedule perspective, just to recap. Lou, last week you were 10-6. I was 8-8. But I threw some Hail Marys up there because I knew that I needed to come back. I hit on 2 of them. I lost on 2 of them, right? And that kind of was like the difference there. But for the season, sir, you were 118, 72-1. I was 112, 78-1. So you were plus 6 games on me. Congratulations. We'll see what 2022/2023 brings us. And obviously those numbers look a little bit larger because I don't like, what do we start, week 6, week 7, something like that. So we'll be out in front of it. Okay. Let's quickly touch on what's happening around the league right now. Most notable, this week is obviously, as informally known as Black Monday around the league. As seasons ends, coaches and GMs parted ways. Most notably, one that took place today with the Houston Texans and first-year coach David Culley being released and relinquished of his duties. You got any commentary on that at all?
I mean, I felt like it was so obvious going, just the hiring of him. Like, this guy's just going to be a one and done type of guy. And it's sad that he was a scapegoat for this franchise. No one wanted that job, bro. No one wanted that job. He took that job. He's like, hey, it's my dream scenario to always be a head coach. Let me see what I can do type stuff. So kudos to him. Feel awful that he got fired, because I felt like, unlike another head coach who got fired earlier this week, Joe Judge, this guy had his team fighting for him. They were in close. They were in a lot of games. They won 4 games, granted 2 of them against Jacksonville, but the other 2 against the Titans and the Chargers, formidable foes there. I thought he did a pretty damn good job with that roster.
Yeah, I would challenge any coach to come in and do better than what he did with what he has. I mean, look what he got out of Davis Mills, like in the back half of the year. I just think, to your point, right? Like, something didn't feel right when he was hired in the first place, and it felt like this was going to happen. But he certainly was not set up to be successful in Houston, and I think it still remains a super unattractive job. And the main reason is because there is just too much uncertainty around, like, who's quarterbacking this franchise? Like, is Deshaun Watson part of the go forward? And if you don't have an answer to that, like, why would you want this job? So that was a little baffling to me, is like, could they keep him there another year until they figure it out a little bit, like replenish the draft stock? Like, if they have a similar season next year where they own some of their own draft picks, maybe that job becomes a little bit more attractive. Somebody walking in with a top 5 pick, maybe in a little bit more quarterback friendly draft class. So I was a little, I wasn't blown away, but I was a little shocked. All right. Let's talk about some of the 2 in-season firings that took place. Urban Meyer, Jacksonville Jaguars. Fired during the season. I'm going to summarize this real fast, and you can add whatever you want. This should never have been a hire in the first place. This was a laughing stock from get-go. I don't think anybody believed that he was going to change the fortunes in Jacksonville. I don't care what his college resume says. And I knew everything I needed to know about this man when Tim Tebow had an audition during training camp. And I know even more when Trent Baalke's the general manager down in Jacksonville, because I've seen firsthand what that does to your roster over an extended period of time. I'm still floored that man once upon a time won GM of the year. But he won it off the heels of, like, bringing in Justin Smith, having a draft that yields you Aldon Smith, Chris Culliver, guys that were getting recognition as rookies on the field. But to me, he's a joke of a general manager as well. So I never liked the Urban Meyer. I've never liked Urban Meyer, period. That's more of a personal and personality type thing. And we saw what kind of human being he seems to be. He's good for headlines, but I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he's out of the NFL, and I don't think he ever gets a shot in the NFL ever again.
Yeah, I mean, here's some of those stories that were going on, him calling out his assistant coaches and things of that nature. This isn't college, man. This isn't college anymore, where you can just talk down to. These are grown ups. These are grown adults, grown men. You can't be talking to people like that. I always feel like no matter where he went, he always left the program disarray as soon as he left, with all the scandals and stuff like that. So, yeah. So Urban Meyer was not a fit, but a lot of people believed in him, and a lot of people thought it was a good hire, believe it or not. So
no, there are very few. I mean, dude, who could you argue at this point in time is one of the most successful college coaches of all time? Nick Saban, right? Like, not a good NFL coach. Some guys, like, their shtick, I would even argue, like, Jim Harbaugh was a very good NFL coach. I know he wants to come back, but I would argue that his shtick is better suited for the whole iron sharpens iron, and that is good when your team is a revolving door, right? When new people come in and don't have to hear the same thing over and over and over again. And dude, outside of this stint at Michigan, everywhere he's been, 3 years at a time, 4 years at a time, when the shtick wears thin, certain people, are cut out for it. Never thought Urban Meyer was going to be. All right. So the other in-season firing for all of the right reasons, a year too late, if you ask me, outside of the reasons that came to light, but John Gruden of the Las Vegas Raiders. This one actually really interests me the most, Lou, because the interim coach who you talked about before, Rich Bisaccia, he's done a hell of a job
Yeah, he
considering
has.
what is going on in Las Vegas and going on around them. Like, it's been a shit show there. I think you actually have to. How often does an interim head coach get the shot and it work out? Not often, right? Like,
Yeah,
not often. But I think he deserves a shot to have this as a full-time job.
I agree. You see the players playing for him and trying hard for him. They've been through a lot, and the fact that they're even in the playoffs. I'm not a Raiders fan. I don't. I think. This is this. This is. I'm really trying to be a completely objective here. I feel like they're an awful team. I don't think they're good at all. Um, it's just that but he's made was with the old set, the old saying like you made was a wine out of water type stuff like that. I feel like he's done a great job with that team. I wanted to talk because I've actually talked to some buddies of mine about Joe Judge. Do you think he got a bad rap because Gettleman was an awful GM? The team was injured. Um, do you think this should all fell on Joe Judge?
Yes. Yes, and yes.
I agree. By the way,
I agree that Gettleman was
screw them.
not. Yeah, did nothing to help. Right, like we're gonna bring in the hog mollies. I didn't see one hog molly come in there that was made any impact whatsoever. But Joe Judge is another one of these guys that comes from the Belichick tree, and what we're quickly finding out is that doesn't really work out the way that it used to from some other trees, and a guy who's never really accomplished much, like first time head coach and whatnot. Like you said before, these are grown ass men. Like, Belichick had to earn that stick. You know what I mean? Like he made his bones. He'd been in the league for a long time before he took over New England's head coaching job and brought in that mentality. And some of these guys don't want to hear it. And dude, you play in New York. You coach in New York. There are expectations here. I think the only reason why he might have held on to his job is because John Mara and company and Steve Tisch were probably reluctant to say, I can't get rid of another coach in
We
2
failed
years.
again. We failed
Yeah,
again.
like that's a tough pill to swallow. But you know what? Kudos to them saying, you know what? Like, no, like this is once a proud franchise. Like we need to get this thing right. And Joe Judge was, I don't think he was the right fit from day
It's
one.
funny. I'm not sure if you saw the Mara press conference. It was a really brutal press conference from the media to Mara and what have you. But basically, Mara was saying that every week was like the worst week of his life. It almost sounded like Office Space when he was going to the therapist and talking about it. So he's like, "Is today the worst day of your life?" He's like, "Yes." So Mara literally came out that every week got worse and worse than the week prior. And I just feel like Joe Judge was way in over his head, trying this tough guy shtick. Didn't work out. There were no results. It just was embarrassing. He was making fun of other teams. They had a brawl in the off season, and where Daniel Jones under the pile. This guy was way over his head. I didn't see any chance or room or improvement from that team. It's just been a joke these last couple of years with Joe Judge.
Dude, I knew everything I needed to know. I mean, the proof was in the pudding, of course, based on performance. But like, when you're holding a press conference to say you're not a clown show, and
You're a
that
clown
people want
show.
to play, yeah. Like if you're holding a conference to say there's no turmoil here, there's turmoil there, right? Like you're literally calling it out. Like that's all
Yeah.
you needed to know. And I honestly think that press conference is probably the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Like it was like, all right, this is enough.
Real quick. I know we're going short on time, what have you. But you said this whole Belichick thing, how they come out of this tree. Joe Judge being that alpha personality, kind of a dick, person. That's what got Brian Flores fired too. By the way,
Yeah.
having issues with the GM and the owner, thinking that he was better than them and stuff like that. It wasn't because of performance; it was because of the attitude.
Yeah, and this one actually shocks me the most, dude, because I like Brian Flores and what
Yeah,
he
but
did
he
with
was
that
butting
team.
heads with them, man.
Of course he was, but like, here's the like, you're right. Like he is a no nonsense BS guy, but it's a lot more believable when I look at Brian Flores and like what he like just looks like and feels like in the way he carries himself. I'm like, damn, I wouldn't take shit from anybody either if I was him, you know. But like, here's the problem. He went to a shitty run franchise. Like Chris Greer as the general manager, like this is Miami. They're trying to sell tickets. They want flash. They want this. Like, so the Brian Flores hiring felt weird to begin with, but how can you argue with the results? And you want to know why Brian Flores is my guy? Because I heard this week when all this was unfolded that he wanted nothing to do with Tua Tagovailoa, and Justin Herbert was his guy and who he wanted. That's how I know what this man knows what he's talking about.
You hear what he told Tua? He told Tua, he's like, we should have
took Mac Jones. They should have. They should have. Dude, what did I say what the Dolphins should do when they were in the draft and they were that high at the first place before the trade with the 49ers took? I said, they should take a quarterback.
You did?
Did I not say that? We could go back and find it. They should take a quarterback. And you know what, dude? So far, feeling really good about my interpretation of Justin Herbert, and I'm feeling even better about my interpretation of Tua Tagovailoa. Look, I would love for Tua to be successful. I don't want anybody to be a bust in the NFL. Like, go make your money. Like, you know, it's a highly scrutinized business. People shit on you all the time. It's not fair. People don't shit on me at work all the time. They don't shit on you at work all the time because it's not public facing. Like, yeah, like maybe one or two people. It is what it is. That's part of the employment. That's why we get paid. But like, as a public figure, man, like these guys get destroyed. And I am a huge critic of them. I'd rather them be good so I didn't have to talk about it, but it feels good when I'm right about it, you know? So real quick, we won't dive into the other ones, but just items of note, right? Chicago Bears, GM Ryan Pace, Coach Matt Nagy, gone.
You're too late. You're too late.
Yeah, definitely a year too late. Denver Broncos, Vic Fangio, gone. Probably a year too late as well. Love Vic. One of the greatest defensive minds that I've ever seen in the time that I'm watching football. Just not a real inspiring head coach is what it comes down to. And then the Vikings, GM Rick Spielman gone after like 16 years in the organization, and Coach Mike Zimmer fired.
Yeah.
They need they need to shake up. Like, Zimmer's a scapegoat in this instance. Like, only so much he can do. He will land on his feet. He will go take over somebody's defense in very short order. I'm not worried about that. I'm sure he's made enough money where he can easily just say, like, I'm taking a year off of football as well.
And do yourself a favor. You and our listeners, go to Google, type in Mike Zimmer girlfriend. He's fine. This guy's fine.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Do you know about this or no?
I don't think I've seen her, but I thought I heard the rumors that like she's young too, right? Like he's way out of his league. Yeah, he's way out of his league. So he's got game. He's doing something right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's proceed here. Wildcard Weekend, Lou. Let's just spend a few moments on each game, right? Like I'm sure you have plenty of notes. I have plenty of notes as well, but you know we're already well over an hour into the show here as well. But what's pretty cool is we have our first ever Monday night wildcard game, which is pretty exciting. So we got games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. So pretty awesome opening weekend of the NFL playoffs here. So I just went in order with the way I listed these out on the schedule, right? So first game up, you have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Cincinnati Bengals. Give me some thoughts, and most importantly, give me your prediction.
Yeah, real quick. The Raiders are not going to get bailed out like they did against the Chargers. LA was the third most penalized team in the NFL this year with 116 penalties. Cincinnati is the second least with only 72 penalties. So they're not going to get bailed out from that standpoint. I just don't understand how the Raiders are going to shut down this Bengals loaded offense. That's multidimensional. They have Higgins, Chase, Boyd, and the third leading rusher in the NFL, and Joe Mixon, who had 1,200 yards this year. The whole purpose of a Gus Bradley cover three defense, we said before, is don't blitz. You drop your boundary cornerbacks deep. You have your free safety roam in the middle of the field, and basically you're splitting the field into thirds, and you're trying to limit big plays. But in order for that to work, you have to get pressure with your front four, and that's disconnect here. The Bengals have given up the third most sacks this year with 55, but the Raiders are the 13th worst in terms of sacking the quarterback. So they haven't really been getting it home when it comes to quarterback. So the only way this is a game, I feel like, if that front four can do what they did against the Chargers. But I don't think that's going to happen. I personally have the Bengals winning this game.
Yeah, so my thoughts are very similar. I will say the Raiders have done a better job at getting pressure over the last few weeks, and it's coming along. I mean, they took advantage of a poor right side of an offensive line last week. No secret to you. Yeah. But I agree, right? It's going to be tough sledding to shut down that offense. They are multi-dimensional. The only way they win this game is if they get to Burrow. That's it. Like, there's no other way around it.
There's a chance, like I said. There's a chance.
Absolutely. On the flip side, though, the Bengals defense is pretty opportunistic themselves, right? And they get after the quarterback quite a bit as well. I mean, what Trey Hendrickson just got all pro, was he not? I mean, having a year that even as a free agent acquisition, you and I were like, why'd you get rid of Carl Lawson for this guy? And this guy balled out. But I like Cincy in this game.
You said it right, though. The Bengals defense is pretty damn good. And offensively for the Raiders, they're not that good. They're the 11th worst scoring offense in the league. They've only had 37 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, they're listen,
when they're bad, they're bad, the Raiders.
My hat goes off to Derek Carr, right? Being a quarterback of this team in this scenario. And I don't know where he developed this like Texas accent out of the dude's a California guy. It's working for him, whatever it is. But like, I mean, my hat goes off to him, man. Like he's played through, just like Bisaccia's coached through this. Like he's had to play for this. He's had to be the face of this team. He's had to take the brunt of it, and they are where they are. But it stops here. Cincinnati wins this football game.
Yep, I agree.
All right. New England at Buffalo. Lou, who does not love a rubber match?
This is, of all the games that we're going to be talking about right now, it was the hardest game for me to decide who's going to win. Because New England handedly defeated the Bills the first matchup. And I understand you got the weather. But then I felt like the Bills handily defeated New England a couple of weeks back when they played them at New England. So this one I kept on going back and forth. Mac Jones has cooled off over the last couple of weeks. If you look at the last 5 games, his touchdown interception ratio is basically 1-to-1. He's had 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, if you take out the game where he played the Jaguars, where he had 3 touchdowns, you can see it's negative, his touchdown interception ratio. So I'm a little worried about possible rookie quarterback regression. They don't need him to, be an all-world beater, but they do need him to be efficient and that, so they can run the ball, play defense, not turn over. But he hasn't been good the last 5 weeks, in my opinion. All that being said, I'm interested to see pretty much the weather conditions in this Buffalo Bills rush defense. Can they stop the run? If you look who Buffalo has trouble with, stopping physical rushing attacks. They've lost against the Colts, the Bucks, the Titans, and Patriots twice. They're 1-4 in those matchups. And now they're saying that the weather's possibly going to be bad this Saturday. So that's a little nervous right there if you're a Bills fan. But I feel like Buffalo's starting to realize that because they're trying to change their offense. Now if you look at Singletary and his output he's been putting over the last couple of weeks, they've increased his rushing attempts per game. So I feel like they're trying to rush the ball more and not rely so much on Josh Allen. All that being said, long-winded, I flipped a coin and ended up on heads, so I'm picking the Buffalo Bills.
Got it. Got it.
Long-winded, right?
No, listen, that's perfect. That's why we're here. So this one was difficult for me as well because of everything you just said, right? They split the series and both road teams won, right? So nobody won at home, and this is a home game for the Buffalo Bills. And I know we're talking about Bill Belichick in the playoffs and whatnot, but I think this comes down to how far along is the rookie quarterback. Weather's going to play a huge part if it is a bad weather game and both teams have to do what they did in their earlier matchup. Nod goes to New England. I don't think the weather is going to be anywhere in comparison to what it was in that particular game because the wind was the biggest thing, right? Like you couldn't air that out. Although you still saw Josh Allen airing that hoe out through 40-mile-an-hour winds like it was nothing. Yep. I mean, dude played in Montana, right? Like he's seen all of that. Long story short, to me, I'm taking the home team. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills.
Yep. Okay.
Philly at Tampa.
You want to go first this one? I feel like I don't want to steal anything. I've been stealing some thunder, so you go first.
Yeah. Philly has the number 1 running attack in the league. Tampa Bay has like the top 3 rush defense in the NFL, right? So like iron sharpens iron, strength against strength. I think that gets nullified. So Philly's going to win this game. It's Jalen Hurts is going to have to make some big plays, and it's not going to be with his legs. It's going to be putting the ball in the air. I just don't know how likely that is. I haven't seen enough from him. Like he's at his best when he's scrambling, running around, backyard football. I I just think Tom Brady's going to be too much for them. This is a home playoff game for the defending champions and the GOAT at quarterback. Give me Tampa Bay all day in this game.
I've learned. Well, I'll wait what I'm going to say. So, yeah, Philly finished the season strong, going 7-3 the last 10 games. But look at the wins they had: Detroit, Denver, New Orleans, the Jets, Washington twice, and the Giants. I mean, not really gives you so much confidence. What they, how scary these Eagles could be. You said it right now perfectly. Strength for strength. Philly's rushing attack, they had the best rushing attack this year versus the Bucs rushing defense. But I also looked at something else. First of all, Philly has the least passing attempts of the year, so they don't really pass the ball a lot, and so they are really one-dimensional when it comes from an offensive standpoint. Ironically, because they started off not running the ball this year. But another thing I looked at: strength versus weakness here. Bucks passing offense is like ranked in the top 10 in everything. Top 10 in attempts, completion percentage, yards per attempt, yards. They're ranked first. Passing touchdowns, they're ranked first. Now, why am I say that? The Eagles' passing defense allows the highest completion percentage in the NFL, 69, nice, 0.4%. So, what I'm saying here, I think you can't bet against Brady, and when a team's basically letting up 70% of passes, defense, you got to go with that. You got to go with Tampa here.
Yeah. I listen. You could just say Tom Brady against this Eagles team. I want to call Philadelphia fraudulent for making the playoffs, but it feels a little fraudulent.
Guess what? I'll go one further. Philadelphia is a fraud.
Okay, there we go. Eagle fans, that's your man. All right, next one up. I want to start this one too.
I think I know where you're going.
This is the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. So for all the obvious reasons, I'm most intrigued by this game. I'm a 49ers fan. But Lou, this is a throwback to my childhood in terms of matchups, right? This was the NFC Championship game year after year after year. Younger 49er fans don't even realize that this is an actual rival. Yeah. I know I talk all the time about how I hate the Seahawks. There's actually no team in the NFL that I hate more than the Dallas Cowboys because of my childhood. I've had some years to get over it. It's been a while since we played some meaningful football. But when this happens, dude, I caught myself rewatching the 1994 NFC Championship game again. Like John Madden, Pat Summerall, soundtrack to me growing up watching football, covering those games. Here's what it is. Dallas has the number 1 overall offense. We talked about it in the forward. 49ers finished with the number 3 defense. 49ers are going to have to do exactly what they did to the Rams in the second half, to the Bengals for 3/4 of a game. That's how you have to play this offense. You got to limit the big plays. That's what it boils down to, right? Everything's got to be hard. It's got to be 3rd and 8 plus. And if they convert, they convert. But you got to go off the field every once in a while. To me, I think the 49ers will take away the run from the Cowboys, right? I am very impressed with our run defense. I mean, I'm not uber impressed with their rushing attack right now. Like, Pollard scares me a little bit because he's a little bit more explosive, but I think we'll swallow Zeke. Like, I think we will swallow Zeke.
Yeah, I have this in my notes too. Their rushing attack has been very subpar the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I think because those running backs are still banged up.
Yeah. And I'm hoping they are, right? Because that bodes well for us. I talked about how mobile quarterbacks, just give us an issue. So how do we scheme up against that? Good news for 49ers. Trent Williams says he's playing this game, right? Like, we just beat the Rams. And I mean, Von Miller was going against a dude who literally did not dress for a single game this year until that game and held Von to 1 sack, right? So you're getting the best left tackle. Dude, did you see that out of all the years that PFF has been giving a grade, that Trent Williams was the highest rated player ever, like out of their grade? I mean, dude, he's phenomenal.
He is.
You want to know how the 49ers win this game? They pound the football. They play the time of possession game, and they keep the Dallas offense off the field. So expect to see a ton of Elijah Mitchell, a ton of Deebo Samuel. I like the 49ers' chances. But their playoff game for them might have been last week. And that's a tough game to reduplicate the effort. So I am, maybe even in guarding my heart, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this game.
Oh, you are a coward. Coward. Hey, quick question. Is this a must-win game?
You're fucking right it is.
All right. So a couple of things. the 49ers cannot play 4 quarters of football, it looks like. I know I'm being a little harsh here. They are literally a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. They started out slow the last 2 games against both the Texans and Rams, regardless of the situation, the
Yep.
scenario. And also, but if you look weeks prior, they came out fast against the Bengals and Titans, only to lay eggs in the second half. I know they beat the Bengals, so this is going to be imperative to play all four quarters. And that sounds so cliche, and I hate saying that, but they can't start. They can't afford to start slow, and they can't afford to let the Cowboys back in the game. They're going to have to dominate, and they're going to have to dominate. I think is the trenches. My matchup, because I'm a chubby guy, I love the trenches. San Francisco's front four versus that Dallas offensive line. San Francisco is fifth in the NFL with 48 sacks, while the Cowboys are 11th best in the league and allowing only 33 sacks this year. I think if you can, you're saying Dak is mobile. He moves, but he doesn't really. He's not a rushing threat.
No, but he's elusive in the pocket, right?
Yeah. So I think that's where how you guys win by causing fits. And the offensive line, Dallas is good. I get it, but they're not intimidating like they used to be. I think after what I saw you guys do to the Rams offensive line last week, I know they're not good too, but I just feel like you can carry the momentum against Dallas. And I think
who wins?
You've got one thing. There's a revenge game alert here. Dan Quinn versus Kyle Shannon. How do you not mention that? That's like one of the biggest storylines here. All that being said,
because long time ago, Kyle was coaching a totally different offense at the time with a totally different skill sets. I don't think it's as, I mean, it's a revenge game, and I know we like to talk about revenge games, but I don't think it's.
I know I'm just throwing it in there to make it more dramatic right now. I think the Niners will be able to, have an efficient running attack. The Niners don't pass the ball often, but they have the 12th best passing offense. Go figure. So they're very efficient on that standpoint too. Did a lot of work on this game because I wanted to step up my game for you. I'm worried about the Dallas's rushing attack. I don't think they can run against you guys. All that being said, it's still Dallas, and Dallas for the last couple of decades, they're choke artists, and this is coming down to coaching. Kyle versus McCarthy. I'll take Kyle 10 times out of 10 on Sunday. I'm going to the Niners.
All right, we love it. We love it. We love your enthusiasm. Listen, I feel good about the game, right? Like I do. Like I'm not.
You're being a coward. You don't have no balls.
Yeah,
you think, bro, deep down inside, you hooked up to a lie detector?
How are you going to tell a testicular cancer survivor that they have no balls? Yeah, that's I outed you like that towards me, bro.
Oh, you think I'm going to be in bad? I tell only facts. Nothing but stats and facts from me.
All good, all good. I'm guarding the heart a little bit, but listen, I like the matchup. Like I feel good going into it. It's just, spoiler alert, I went with all home teams, right? Like I just feel like that was the way in the playoffs. All right, Pittsburgh, Kansas City. We already saw this game this year. It didn't go well for Pittsburgh. And I think, in Big Ben's final season and potential final game is a real cute story. Not as cute as like Ray Lewis's last hurrah and how they pulled that off. But, Pittsburgh's offense to me is just absolutely anemic. And they're going to have to score a lot of points to beat the Chiefs at home. And I just don't see TJ Watt and company having much success getting after Mahomes. There is an X factor for me here. Tyreek Hill. How healthy, not healthy. He's been absent from this offense, slowed it a little bit. Like I know they're still scoring. But even if he was a non-factor to me, it's it's not enough. I like KC all day long in this game. Not even close. Not even close football game.
What do you want me to say here about this game?
Just give me your winner or loser.
I'm still pissed the fact that the Steelers are in the playoffs because just from a watchability standpoint,
from a tie against the Detroit Lions that they should have lost anyway.
It's not just that. It's just that we're forced to watch this game. Really, I said about the Raiders offense how awful they've been. Well, guess what? The Steelers are even worse. They've only 34 touchdowns this year. The only chance they really have is by rushing, by trying to apply some pass rush against Mahomes, but the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line is pretty damn good. What I'm really watching for this game is, can Big Ben throw a pass greater than 10 yards? Like, seriously, only Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence had lower throwing averages than Big Ben's 6.2 average yards. So, all kidding aside, they're going to have to see if that Steelers chamois cloth defense can go into Arrowhead and pressure the hell out of Mahomes. I don't see it happening. I think this game is a snooze fest. Not that, like, the Chiefs' offense is what it once was, but this is a bad Steelers team in my opinion. And you said they destroyed them a couple of weeks back when they played them in Kansas City. The Chiefs did. They didn't have Kelsey that game, so they have Kelsey now. All right, Hill may be a little banged up, but you might not need him. And guess what? You can always rush the ball because the Steelers make the Chargers' running defense look like the Great Wall of China. So this is going to be a snooze fest. It just won't be enjoyable. Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. Last and final wild card game. Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. I'll let you start.
These are both teams I don't believe in whatsoever. Arizona's 1-4 in the last 5 games, and I just feel like their offense is extremely disjointed, especially with the absence of Hopkins. Everyone caught up to the air raid offense. This is what Arizona does. I feel like every year they start off hot and they kind of fizzle and sputter towards the end. At Los Angeles, they are 5-1 their last 6 games, but damn, they looked pretty damn bad in that second half against you guys. They defeated the Cardinals last time, 30-23, when they played on December 13th. I will say I'm picking the Rams because I feel like them losing in the fashion they lost to the San Francisco 49ers last week was actually perhaps a teachable moment and maybe like a slap in the face, like, hey, wake up type thing. So I do think the Rams beat the Cardinals.
Yeah. This was actually the hardest game for me.
That Buffalo game was hard for me.
But I see these teams all year, right? So like I am just as perplexed as to like, listen, it's similar to New England Buffalo, right? Like they split the series, both road teams won. So nobody like dominated at home. I agree. Like again, the Cardinals, as you mentioned, lost 4 of their last 5. They were one time 10-2, bro, and now they finished the season at whatever it is, like 10-11-6 or whatever. So it felt like that it was fraudulent the way that they started, and they were doing it like without players and whatnot, and convincingly beating teams. And I think what's even crazier about this is that the Cardinals had a chance to win the division. They just had to beat the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are not the Seahawks of old in their own building, and they just had to beat Seattle. And then based on the 49ers winning, then they're division champs, and they're hosting this game. The Rams, even though they lost the game because Arizona lost, they were awarded the NFC West title after a loss, right? Because that's just the way that it went. Like even McVay was like, we're not celebrating this. But for me, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Whoever wins this, the one who wins this game to me is the one that's lost last week hurts the most because they want that taste out of their mouth. And I think the Rams lost to the 49ers for so many reasons hurts the most. And right now they're just playing, even both coming off a loss over the last 4 or 5 weeks. The Rams are just playing better football. So again, give me the home team. I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams in the house that Deebo Samuel built.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Stafford hasn't been good the last 3 games. He's had 7 interceptions. And let's not forget about the ghost of Stafford pass, perhaps starting to creep in this week. I know I said the Rams, but I said that reluctantly. He can't beat teams above 500. And if you look at his playoff record, he's 0-3 in the playoffs and hasn't been to the playoffs since 2016. So I said the Rams because I just think the Cardinals are that much worse.
Like I said, it's a difficult game. It doesn't mean it's like going to be the best matchup in the world. It's just a difficult game to pick because of like it's the tale of 2 cities for both of these teams. They both started on fire. They both started with like, well, these are the 2 best teams in like the NFL, the way that they were starting, and it just feels different at the end, whether it's not having DeAndre or whether it's Stafford's like legacy and history creeping up with him. It's different. So, all right, we're out of there. We picked our winners. We'll come back and check what it looks like through that bracket up behind us because, Lou, it's our final segment before we get out of here. Let's talk about Super Bowl matchups and who's winning. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
All right. My Super Bowl matchup's the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers. I am actually much more confident in my prediction from the NFC than I am in the AFC. I just think I like Kansas City's offense more than the rest of the AFC, and to me, that's kind of what it boils down to. But in the AFC, I literally just do not see anyone beating Green Bay this year. I think this is the year after 2 consecutive NFC championship losses that they get over the hump. I think Rodgers is motivated. I think the big difference this year is that they do have a pretty dynamic 1-2 punch at running back, and they have home field advantage. So anybody who's coming to play them's got to play in cold weather. And I've been saying this for a while about A.J. Dillon. You do not want to tackle this man in cold weather. So it's an opportunity to impose your will. And it doesn't matter the weather. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are still going to do whatever they want to you. The biggest defense for Green Bay is they're packing a defense with them this time, and a defense that's playing. So I think they rather easily and rather unscathed get out of the NFC. And when all said and done, when those teams go together, I know it'll be played in a dome, but I just think this is the year for the Pack. So I'm going Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
There's one thing that you forgot to mention is that the Aaron Rodgers piggy toe that goes wee all the way home, it's going to be healthy too.
Yeah, he gets that extra week.
Gets that extra week, and they're getting players back. Jari Alexander, I think they're getting Whitney Merciless back. Believe it or not, they got Bakhtiari back. They're starting to get healthy, and like you said, their defense has dramatically improved this year. I am also going Green Bay now, and like I said, I thought for me it was a no-brainer in the NFC. Now the AFC. I'm going to get – I want to say the Chiefs, right? I want to say the Chiefs, but I'm not going to. And I feel like if – I can either look really bad right now or really smart. If the Buffalo Bills defeat the New England Patriots, the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. So what I'm saying is I predicted them to beat New England. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And I'm saying it's going to be Buffalo Bills and Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers gets his second Super Bowl victory.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Dude.
Yeah, I'm doing my Chris Berman.
I almost made this like, listen, remember how many years in a row I picked the Buffalo Bills to play the 49ers in the Super Bowl? It was like 10 years in a row. And now it's actually a possibility, right? It's not reality, but so I almost put the 49ers and the Bills in it just so I can say nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills and do my Berman impression. Listen, I mean, could it be near the Buffalo gets over the hump, right? They've had some struggles in the playoffs for sure. And like I said, in the AFC, like
the only game that scares me with Buffalo
is New England. It's the only one they don't match up well against, right? Yeah. It's styles make fights. We've talked about this all the time. All right, Lou, we both got the Pack. And then maybe Rodgers will just leave Green Bay and he can go away, or maybe walk out into the sunset and one less dominant team in the NFC, one less quarterback to worry about. But that wraps us up, man. So we're heading into Wildcard Weekend. That's our recap of Week 18. 6 games on the docket this week. We'll come back next week, recap these, talk about what the divisional round looks like. We're not changing our Super Bowl predictions, even if the team gets eliminated. Oh, good news for us is we pick somebody that doesn't even play till next week anyway, so we can still ride that wave if we want in terms of the winner. But that's it, man. 18 weeks of content so far during the regular season. It's been a ton of fun for you. I'm looking to our ton of fun with you, and I'm looking forward to our playoff coverage. As I always do, rely on you to tell everybody where they can find us.
On Instagram and Twitter at WTF Pod NFL.
And find us on YouTube at We're Talking Football. I'm Weston. That's Lou. Everybody enjoy the games this weekend.
Bills Mafia!